broken promise after broken promise after broken promise. This was at the heart of Rishi Sunak's speech against the budget in the UK. I'm not sure if you saw this speech, but it was a very passionate speech that he gave opposing Labour's budget. And for me, it was quite interesting to see because he was extremely passionate, and it was a stark contrast to when he was the Prime Minister. So he had a lot of passion when he was talking, but when he was talking, it seemed like he was just spitting out catchphrases that were easy to say, and it was very easy to get people emotional. So the gist was that he is saying that Labour broke their promise and are increasing taxes on working people. Now, a lot of people made a lot of comments saying that they were impressed with his speech. Now, as a politician, from an outsider's perspective looking in, a lot of people don't trust politicians. And it's quite clear from the time that he was Prime Minister that the country was not improving. The Conservative Party had also increased taxes. People were incredibly unhappy with the Conservatives. With over a decade of rule and countless prime ministers, they did not provide stability for the country. So I think it's quite easy for him or anyone to attack the next party when they made such a big mess. Now, the next party has to try and solve this problem. So how do they solve this problem when they need to raise a lot of money? Well, for example, national insurance will be going up. Now, they hope to raise 25 billion. So Labour hopes to raise 25 billion a year by the end of the forecast period. So by increasing the national insurance that the employers pay, it can help to raise 25 billion, which can be used to fund public services such as the NHS, transport, maybe to help with energy costs. And I think this money can be used in a good way. However, because the employer now has to pay more, has to contribute more, they have to weigh up the salary. So if they're looking for a new employee and they were paying a certain amount, now they may lower that amount because of the added cost they will have. It's the same for people that are in a job. Maybe you've been in a job for many years and you're expecting a pay rise, which is only natural. If you've been there for a long time, you've contributed a lot, you add a lot of value, and you're expecting a pay rise as you built up your experience. But now the employer can justifiably say that we cannot increase it as much because we are having to contribute more towards your national insurance. So it will leave a lot of disgruntled workers who may look for other jobs, may even look for jobs in different countries. And so this can affect the company. It can lead to instability. Even if you stay in the same job, because of the cost of living crisis, you may have no choice but to stay in the job. But this can further add to your stress because the cost of everyday products are increasing. So now you do not have the money to pay for these expenses. So you have to look at your lifestyle. Maybe it means not going on holiday. And now when I say holiday, I'm not saying some fancy holiday to a 5-star hotel for a month and enjoying massages. This could just be a small getaway, which a lot of people in the UK enjoy. It can even be within the UK. But with everything being so expensive, you cannot now afford to have a holiday, which adds to the enjoyment of life. So it's going to make people feel more stressed. They will not be able to look forward to anything, and they will become very frustrated. So this is what Rishi Sunak is alluding to, that more workers are going to be taxed higher. Now, I think from his perspective, it's so easy. It's so easy to show a lot of passion, but I was impressed with the amount of passion that he did show. A lot of people mentioned that they wish they had seen him this passionate before. But why wasn't he passionate before about making changes? Well, he was benefiting from those changes, from the increased taxes when he was in charge. So I think that it's the perception, and sometimes perception can be reality. If you look at in the American election, how Donald Trump came across compared to Harris, he could leverage the fact that he can run the country like a business and make profit and put America first, and tapping into people's emotions and frustrations and pointing the finger at immigrants, for example, making it a drain on the country and having a solution. So because people are so fed up, they are drawn towards someone who can speak with a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and it feels like they have a plan to do something. But I think overall, Labour's budget didn't rock the boat too much, considering that they have to raise a lot of money to solve a lot of the problems. I was disappointed to see that incredibly wealthy people are still not being taxed, even if it's by 1%. That can solve a lot of the country's problems, but this hasn't happened. Also, greedy landlords, they haven't really been hit by this budget. So there is still no renting limit. There is no one saying to a landlord that you cannot increase the rent by 30%, which is ridiculous. And it's forcing people to either have to relocate and then travel further to the job. It's affecting families as well if they're renting. So although stamp duty has increased, so if a landlord has a host of properties in their portfolio and they're making a handsome profit and they want to add to it, now they have to think twice. However, they can just increase the rent to pay for the next house and offset that difference because there's no limit. There's no limit for them. So they can cut corners, they can underfund the property, not look after the property, not fix things in the property. It can be very dilapidated, it can be very run down. So the people living within that property are living in a subpar space, and the landlord is saving money. Also, the government is increasing a levy on vapes and tobacco. So this will rise. So the tobacco rates will rise by 2%, and taxes on alcohol will rise in line with the RPI. But if you buy alcohol in a pub, then that will be cut by 1.7%. So I can see how the government are trying to encourage people to go back to a pub. And in the UK, a pub is a central meeting place for a lot of people, where people socialize. With the cost of living crisis, a lot of people have stopped going to the pub because it's so expensive. So the government is thinking about things in a bit of a logical way from their actions. Because if you are smoking or you are vaping, eventually you may need access to healthcare, which will put a strain on the healthcare. By increasing taxes on this, it may discourage people from this. Even though it's people's right to do this, they may look for alternatives, less quality, which could have more harmful chemicals. But the bottom line is the government needs to try to raise some funds. And how do they do this? So for me, like I said, it's quite simple. You tax the wealthy and you have a limit on landlords. But they are looking at different ways to do this. So if Rishi Sunak is this passionate, I don't think that it makes a difference. I think looking at when he is speaking in Parliament, it seems quite very strange. I'm not sure. Tell me what your opinion is when you see politicians in the Houses of Parliament debating. They sound like goats crying in the background and people moaning and people cheering. It's very strange when you think about it that these people in these situations are making decisions which impact the whole of the country. So let me know, what did you think about Rishi Sunak's speech? Were you impressed? Do you think it makes any difference? Do you think people would be swayed to go from Labour to Conservative, even though Labour won by a landslide? People were so fed up with the Conservatives. So in a way, he's trying to save face. He's trying to keep his legacy because he still goes down in the record books as being a prime minister. So it was quite interesting. Let me know, what did you think?